on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing on You Live. Today, we are going to be having on the lead vocalist, my dude, Brendan Garrone from the one and only Incendiary. I am so stoked. First off, let me give a shout to this month's sponsor, my people over at Studio House Designs. This episode is sponsored by Studio House Designs, the purveyors of horror and VHS nostalgia. You know, not only that, the tie-dye long sleeve VHS stack shirts that they do, you know, if it doesn't have that Studio House Designs logo on it, it's not legit. You know, it's not the OG stuff. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring this season. It's going to be so sick. And you can find them over at studiohousedesigns.com as well as Studio House Designs on Instagram. So, without further ado, man, if I may say, and may I mention, this is also a Studio House Design shirt. So as I said, I've got my cat, Brendan from Incendiary. Oh, I almost pulled out my headphones there. I got, you know, we're going to be talking all sorts of different stuff. You know, got some records on hand. We're going to talk a couple of tracks off these that are personal favorites of mine to take a little bit of a selfish moment. We're going to talk about, you know, how his interest, you know, in music originated, different things as far as, you know, just some favorite albums of his, you know, some things maybe even a little outside of hardcore, the hardcore adjacent community as well, you know. So we're going to dig into all that and much more. Let me get my dude connected here. Brendan!
What's up, dude?
Holy shit, what is going on? How's it
going?
How's
it going, man? Chilling. Snowy Sunday here in New York, just hanging out.
That's the same way over here. I was gonna say if the connection seems to get a little fuzzy or whatever, I can figure out something, you know, because it's snowing like a motherfucker over here.
Where are you at exactly?
Michigan.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sure some of that's kind of slapping right over your way as well. You guys getting some snow too, you said?
We got a bunch on like a couple days ago, like Wednesday or Thursday, and we're supposed to get like another 8 now, so we'll see.
Jesus. Yeah.
I like it, man. It's cool. It's chill. I don't have anything to do, so it's good.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I guess from like being a kid to now is like driving in it and shit. You know, that's really the
Shoveling
only like bummer. But shoveling, that's the other bitch. But other than that, not too shabby. All right, man.
Sure,
so look,
man.
Here on Growing on You Live. Initially, I have a couple of just icebreaker fun questions. The remainder of the interview is about you and your craft, your work with Incendiary, and then I have one finale that I wrote just for you. So if you're all set, my dude, we're gonna get this bad boy started.
Hit me.
All right, first off, let me ask you, you know, my wife and I do some traveling, and if we were coming through Long Island, hit us up with like a local restaurant or maybe a food staple that we have to try before we left.
I mean, it's the cliche
a personal
answer.
Favorite
well,
to you.
There's two things I would say. They're both breakfast that you'd have to get an egg sandwich from like a proper deli on Long Island, and you'd have to go to a real Long Island bagel place. I know those, obviously the latter one is like the clear, like obvious answer everybody gives about bagels, but it's 100% true. They're incredible here.
What is it about the Long Island bagels that, you know, that differs from other spots? I've heard so much about it.
I mean, they say it's the same thing with pizza, right? Like it's supposedly the water. And you know, it's like we have a strong Jewish population and it's a Jewish food. So like those guys crush it, man. They make it amazing. The bagels here are incredible. Yeah. Better than New York City, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. You know, and all I ever hear about Long Island as well is like, you know, you go over and you travel over there and you don't want to leave. So that's why I tell my wife, I'm like, let's wait a little while just in case, you know, our asses don't come back.
Yeah. I mean, you know, in the summer, it's great with beaches and stuff. It's a crowded place. Has some drawbacks for sure, but there's some good stuff. It has a fun place in my heart for sure.
Sick. All right, awesome. Let me ask you, as far as if you could, you know, with all the pandemic going on, if you had the opportunity and you could make a one album dream side project, who would be the other members in your band? Let's just say a 4-man band. You got a guitar, bass, and drum. Who are you going to put out an album with?
Man,
if you could choose.
That's a great question. Let me think. All right. If it doesn't have to make sense, I'll just pick like personal. All right. I would say Tim Alexander from Primus on drums because he's like my favorite drummer and I grew up loving him. I'll say Harley Flanagan on bass for his intensity and just how savage he is on bass, which would be kind of funny. And for guitar, let's do Walter for Quicksand. Why not? And we'll have We'll have Tim Alexander try to play in we'll do kind of like a post-hardcore band. But maybe I'll just like be the band manager and Walter could do everything because he's more talented than I am with everything. So I'll just be the band's manager. I'll just be pushing them.
You're like, no, don't let me fuck this up.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, who's going to sing, me or Walter? We'll have Walter sing. I'll drive him around and shit.
Man, what a great answer. That is awesome. That's awesome. Tell us about, your musical interests as far as in your youth. When you were coming up, what was playing in the household? What were some earlier memories of, just songs or albums that kind of grabbed you?
Yeah, I mean, so I personally got really into, well, let me back up. When my oldest sister's a lot older than me. She's like 9 years older than me. So she got me into a lot of the like early U2 albums, like from the late 80s, early 90s, which are amazing, I think, to this day. So like that, I was really young then. So that got me into like the Smiths and Morrissey. And then my other sister, Kathleen, got me into things like the Lemonheads and like Letters to Cleo and some like old like indie stuff, right? That was like the influences from my family. And then my parents were really into like Irish music. That's what they love to listen to. So like, all that stuff, like pub music. And then I myself got into things through like, the skating and BMX side of it. So like I was obsessed with Pennywise, completely obsessed. So like the fast skate music, like I said, Primus, I loved Primus. I loved Bush. I still do love Bush to this day. So that was some of the early stuff I was listening to, sort of like pre-hardcore. And then like with hardcore, I kind of got into some local bands. At the same time, I got into stuff like Indecision and Strife. Strife was a huge influence on me in like middle school into high school. So that's where I started to discover more like heavy music. And then I got exposed through a variety of ways to like more classic, like New York hardcore and other stuff. Like I got exposed to Floor Punch, 10-Yard Fight and Fast Break and stuff like that too. That was probably more in like 10th grade around then. So it was a good mix of influences growing up.
Okay. And now as far as like you were more introduced to hardcore through going to shows, what were some of, the initial like first shows that you remember going to and, that having an impact on you?
Yeah. I mean, the two bands that were in, like I was kind of coming into things in like the post VOD era. So like just as VOD was either like, I think they like broke up and got back together. Like, that end where they were just like touring and on Ozfest and huge. So like kind of like past their local show era. So for me, it was the Backup Plan and Subterfuge. The Backup Plan actually toured a lot. Subterfuge toured a little bit, but those were the two bands that really had a big influence on me. And I used to go to venues all over Long Island actually, but there were two, one called Outer Limits that I was just talking to Rick from This Is Hell and Subterfuge about, which was by my house, and another place called Local 7. And Local 7 had a ton of shows that like, had touring bands and stuff. And it was like a DIY warehouse. So that was the place I would be going to like every weekend when I was in high school.
Damn. All right. Now, as far as like with you mentioning that, what were some bands outside of hardcore when you were into all that caught your attention, maybe even from going to shows?
Yeah. At the time, like along with my exploration or whatever exposure into hardcore, I've always been really, really into and influenced by sort of like I don't know what you want to call it, like if the first wave of emo was like Rites of Spring and stuff, I was way too young for that. But the second wave, so like I was very, very, and am very into like your Braids, Promise Ring, Jazz June, like that Midwest, like American football, like that whole scene. I've always loved that. So that was the other like Get Up Kids. That was the other like path that I had kind of like continuously been into from kind of like an early, probably like, 13, 14, 15, 16 is where I started discovering a lot of that music in conjunction with hardcore.
Okay, okay. And now something, you touched on, I did want to mention a little bit more too, is as far as with the subculture between heavy music, and BMX and skating, and you were real into BMX for some years there. Tell us about, where and when you started your BMX interests.
Oh, yeah. I
Riding.
mean, that was my whole life. That's why I was obsessed with it. When did I start? God, I mean, fifth grade, fourth grade. I don't know. I spent like most of my childhood. I just was in like the woods, like building dirt jumps. Like I spent a disgusting amount of time doing that. It's actually amazing. I didn't get completely jacked from how much I dug and stuff, but that was a huge influence on me. I really fell off in, once I like senior year of high school going into college, like a lot of riders do, which sucks, but like I tried to ride a little bit in college. I was also never that good. Like I was always terrible,
Okay.
but I tried. And I kind of like got more into street. I transferred from like trail riding into street riding. And yeah, that whole scene was kind of like in conjunction with punk. And so it was sort of like a good segue into music.
Now, let me throw this at you real quick because I just started thinking. I don't know if you remember back in the day playing the old PlayStation and whatnot. The Dave Mirra
Yeah,
BMX. Did you ever play that game?
I did. I was more into the Matt Hoffman one. That Matt
Oh
Hoffman had a
yeah, that
game,
game is
and it
sick as
was
fuck too.
were they? I want to say they came out around the same time. It's funny you
Yeah.
asked me this because I just watched the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater documentary. It's
Yes.
really good if you haven't seen it. It's about like how the game, started and everything. And they had some footage from like the BMX game, and I was like, oh shit. I think I played both Dave Mirra and Matt Hoffman, but I want to say I played the Matt Hoffman one more. I don't know if I think that was
Oh,
on
okay.
PlayStation, like the first PlayStation. But yeah, I do
Yeah.
love those games.
It,
Love Tony Hawk.
if they were to remake one of those games, what incendiary song would you throw on that soundtrack?
Oh man, well they did just make the Tony Hawk game, and I would have
The
killed to be
Tony
on
Hawk
that.
one, yeah.
Yeah, they remade
Yeah.
it.
Hell yeah.
God, let me see. I don't know, something upbeat, probably like maybe like Front Toward Enemy would be cool or something like that. To be on the
Yeah.
soundtrack, that'd be fun.
Yeah. Hell yeah, that'd be so sick. That was one of the things too. With like the whole Tony Hawk games and the Dave Mirra and Matt Hoffman, BMX games was like the music that was on there too. It was kind of like a whole other level to having like the skate videos and BMX videos. You're playing a game and you're playing the bitch for hours. Listening to these same songs over and over. You're like, man,
Yep.
I gotta pick up these records.
So on
What
that
Oh,
documentary,
go ahead.
I won't like, I'm not going to just like explain the entire documentary, but there is this part where the singer of Goldfinger is interviewed, and if you played the first Tony Hawk, you know that like that song is like on it, like that one song on a loop, like you were saying. And he said when they were in
Yeah.
Europe on their first tour, they were playing their set, and like, it was just like whatever, playing, just kind of like was going over like a fart in church, everyone just kind of staring at them. And they played that Superman song or whatever. It's something Superman. And he was like, the place
Yeah.
went absolutely fucking ballistic. And because of Tony Hawk, which is such a good story. And it's only because I just happened to watch that. I think that's hilarious.
Damn. I know I've seen the trailers for it. I haven't been able to watch it yet, but that's definitely on my radar. I've got to check
Yeah,
that
right
one
on.
out.
Right on.
That's sick. Now, what was your first BMX that you ever got? Your first bike?
I had like some GT, I think, and then I got a
Okay.
Haro, the Blammo or whatever. Like definitely from like the Dave
Nice.
Mirra, like the budget Dave Mirra one. And I had that for a while. This is the kind of bike that weighed like 40 pounds, and like you could
Oh,
you could barely
okay.
bunny hop because it was so heavy. Like at that time, like all of the BMX bikes were tried to be like completely indestructible. So like, all those bikes like where they were literally like 45 pounds and you couldn't do shit. And now kids are like, the bikes are like 20 pounds and kids do, tail whips and shit like from the ground. And I'm just like, holy shit. But yeah, it was a
Yeah,
beast.
that's funny. It's one of those things you mentioned as far as like the kids that were always like good and shit, because like I'd be riding with my friends and you'd have those cats at the park that'd be like they're standing on the back tire and shit spinning
Yeah.
around on the fucking handlebars and you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck, man, I can barely get this thing off the ground. How are you doing all this shit?
Yeah. I was getting all right for a little while, but I was never very good. It's okay.
You'd mentioned like the dirt jumps and everything. Was that more of your draw to it? Were you more into, or did you like the vert and street and all that better?
At that time, there weren't really like skate parks like at all
Okay.
on Long Island. I mean, like, right? Like, so we were really relegated to building trails and trail riding, and then I kind of got into street riding. I went to like they built a skate park way out east in a town called Greenport rather. Like later when I was older, and I went to it once and tore my shoulder apart. So that was my foray into ramp riding. Yeah.
Oh shit! What happened with that? You just biffed it?
Yeah, I just like overshot this thing and just completely landed on my shoulder and like tore my rotator cuff. Yeah, it was sick.
Oh, that was my next question. I was going to ask about if you've ever biffed it, and had some close calls, but goddamn,
yeah. No, it's not. I'll never forget because it stays with me every time I lift weights or something like that. Yeah.
Damn. Now, and you were in like lacrosse, right, for a while?
No, I never played lacrosse, although lacrosse was like huge on Long Island. It's like what it was known for. I never really got into that. So I wasn't huge into sports. I was into sports, but I wasn't really huge into like competitive sports in high school, at least.
Okay, gotcha. I was gonna say that'd be a bitch having to deal with that all the time and playing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
So now, before singing in bands, you initially played the drums, and just as far as I want to dig into, how did you get your first kit? What was the first kit that you started off on?
My first kit was a single snare drum and cymbal that I got, that like my parents got me. I was probably like 12 or 11. So it was like literally just a snare drum and like a tin cymbal. And I was like, I just played that for a while. I was like, this isn't working for me, guys. I need more shit. So my first drum set was a used Tama. It was actually the music store. I got one of those old like heavy metal double bass kits, like with 2 bass drums, and just broke them apart and sold them both to have like double kits, like to make more money on it. So I had one half of a kit. It was a Tama Rockstar. I have it to this day. I probably got that when I was in like 8th grade, maybe.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What were some of the first tracks that you were looking to, like play along with when you put on like a CD or something?
Oh man. I used to try to play along to Green Day, Bush, 16 Stone.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The Offspring, always played to the Offspring record, and the Offspring record and Pennywise, they were both like always crazy frustrating to me because like the Byron from Pennywise is an unbelievable punk drummer, and I'd be like, how does this motherfucker play so fast? Like, it's impossible. So I remember constantly trying to play that, and I distinctly remember trying to play the beginning of Offspring Smash when I was like 12 years old, which is like, it starts with this drum roll, like that's like the first song in the album. And I remember trying to do it and being like, this is impossible. Like this is not possible for a human being to do. And it's like so easy. It's really funny. But yeah, have distinct memories of that.
And that's such a funny, like train of thought when you're first starting thinking like, this is absolutely fucking, how is this guy doing this? Meanwhile, this cat's been playing for fucking years, but that's kind of the train of thought, when you first go into learning something, you're like, man, this is stupid. They did some computer engineering to this shit. This isn't real.
Yeah.
Can't be true.
Sticking with it.
Right. Now, as far as like the earlier days, with you being in bands and whatnot, tell us about, how you linked up. Did you have friends, from shows? Was there ads answered maybe from, local record shops?
Yeah, I had a couple of friends in high school that were into. I had one or two that were into hardcore, and then I had a larger group of friends that were into just like, let's call it just like alternative music. So in high school, I started, my first band was like a punk band, and it was all people that I went to high school with. And then from there, I met more friends, like going into college, like outside of just my town. And like that became like a group of friends that continued to grow. And some of those friends, are in Incendiary now and stuff. So it kind of blossomed from high school, really.
Oh, okay. All right. What was, like the process after kind of giving up the drums and everything and that idea? What was your process as far as kind of developing your vocal style? Did you have different styles that you tried first and you kind of fell into what you got now, or?
Yes, I did. I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I was kind of going more for the like, you know, harder, uh, you know, like Vogel style, I guess you could say,
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah.
just completely like blowing out my voice. And I remember talking to my friend Travis who sang in This Is Hell, and he was like, dude, just just like yell. Like why you don't need to try to like make it sound a certain way. And I was like, okay. And then so that's kind of what I started with there, and then just gradually worked on more of like control and not blowing out my voice every day and stuff like that. So that it really started from just kind of like that advice and getting more of like a natural sound and just like this is how I sound instead of trying to like sound a kind of way, just being me.
Oh, okay. Nice. I can say, as far as like initially when I discovered Incendiary, one of the first things that I dug about, the band was the vocal approach and the cadence as far as, kind of how there's times where, the rhythm section is going and the vocal cadence that you have over it, can kind of differ a little bit, but it works. Do you have, does some of that contribute to you playing drums as far as how you, maybe deliver a line
Yeah, I
from your
think so,
playing?
man. I 100%. I think two things. First, I definitely feel like I have a decent sense of rhythm for playing the drums for, 25 years. Um, and I do think that, like when it comes to like writing music and writing vocal parts, like I gravitate towards the drums and I hear the drums. So I think that's part of it. And I think the other aspect for me is like just being natural and playing to my strengths and doing what is comfortable. I mean, I'm still trying to kind of push myself, but like I don't sound like like a deathcore singer who can do like really like I don't sound like that, right? Like I don't sound like you know fucking the guy from Cannibal Corpse. Like I sound how I sound, and so that whole
Right.
like long drawn out sustained screams, like I don't really do that. That's not my thing, and so it was more about just trying to be like what feels comfortable for me where I can focus on like lyrics and delivery rather than trying to sound and like trying to copy somebody else just because they're good at it. Like that's what's going to be failure, I think. And just trying to be myself is, you know, what I think ultimately works for everybody if they can find that. Like I get a lot of people that are like, how do you, like, how do you do that or something? And I'm like, I'm just literally just, this is just how I sound. Like
Right.
there's nothing, it's just natural for me.
Yeah.
So I just double down on that.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, most recently with your the Thousand Mile Stare there, you guys work with Will, and he can be pretty anal and pretty picky with shit. Was there some certain times where he was really pushing you into reaching something, and you were glad that you did that?
Yeah, 100%. I think Will was amazing to work with for a couple of reasons. I had, going into it, I had told him what I was looking to get out of recording that album and how I wanted the vocals to sound. And he understood kind of what I was going for. He really helped me. He helped be a sounding board for ideas around not only lyrics really, but more so like positioning and like placement and like organization of them from like a timing perspective. So he became a really good sounding board to just be like, hey, try this, try that. And there were a few things that like he particularly, was like give this a shot that maybe would be out more so out of my comfort level that
Oh,
I
okay.
um, that I was glad that I did. So he did push me a little bit to do things. So I feel like we had a great understanding. Recording vocals with him was definitely like the best process I've had, recording, because recording, I mean, I think recording sucks. So to have it be less painful was nice for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it sounds like it's like the majority of the band. That's what everybody says. Is like, man, recording is like the worst part of this whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob likes it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I find it like I just want to get in there and get it done. I enjoy, I enjoy like the guitar work and the drums. Like I like when I don't have to do anything, it's great because I like the structure of it and kind of like looking at things from a composition perspective with a critical ear. But recording vocals in a hardcore band is, I mean, it's the worst thing in the entire world. So yeah, I absolutely hate every second of it. For sure.
That's funny. Oh shit. All right. Now look, as far as, like before times of streaming and the internet, all the things that we have nowadays, discovering music was from different things like, looking at an album's thank yous, or possibly looking at, like a record store having up, some flyers from some bands, or maybe even some good old cover art. Any of the above, what were some examples of things that you discovered albums from any of these?
Yeah, I mean, I was probably like a lot of other kids at the time, like a sucker for a Crucial live shot. So like a lot of the cool live records, or live shot records, like, the New York Hardcore Comp, or, some of the Strife records and the Strife merch. Like I was just like, this looks so sick. So yeah, I mean, I remember just being intrigued and going into record stores and buying albums solely based on the way that they looked. Like, that's it. So, and just being like, I hope this is good. So I definitely have fond memories of that. I remember getting like the Indecision Shai Hulud split early on because I had heard the name Shai Hulud somewhere, I think. And I got that, and that's like how I discovered, Indecision. So I have a lot. It was a fun process of just being completely like ignorant to the entire thing because there was no internet, and I had, like I said, like one or two friends into the kind of music. So if I didn't hear about it, I didn't know about it. So that's kind of like how it went for me, almost like a haphazard, innocent type of way.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of a relative thing too, as far as like my show, I talk with people in like the film industry or like horror movies and different things.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, that was the idea with like movies too, the poster art or cover art. You're like, oh man, this is sick. It's like, I'm going to have
100%.
some buddies on a Saturday night, like I hope I don't fuck up my whole weekend by renting this movie and it sucks.
I know. I think of like all the like epic, like metal albums and like some of the Dan Seagraves artwork and stuff. And it's like, when you're a kid, you're like, I don't know what that is, but I need to listen to this because it looks badass. Like that stuff is real. With streaming, obviously it's very easy to not care about artwork anymore. It's so easy. And it's hard to continue to focus on that stuff. But like, I do still believe that it's important and a part of the aesthetic. And I think we'll always try to be as thoughtful as possible with that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things where there's good parts to it and there's bad parts, but it definitely, I think, speeds up the process as far as, like feeling like I'm not really giving a shit about this album. Back in the day when all you had was $10 and you spent, all of that on a CD, it was like, I've got to give a shit about this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're making a literal and figurative investment, right? You're like, I mean, there's plenty of albums that like, I'm sure you had the same thing where you're like, I'm going to kind of force myself to like this because I bought it and now I own it. And that's how it goes. So I definitely remember doing that with some albums, being like, all right, fuck it. Here we go.
Yeah, right. Nice. Yeah. So as far as continuing, with cover art, I wanted to touch on your guys's full links with Crusade, Cost of Living, and Thousand Mile Stare. First off, just as far as with Crusade, what was some initial inspiration, or what do you remember as far as, like maybe even some early drafts on the cover art for that bad boy?
Yeah, I mean, for that, I knew I was like writing a lot of like crazy thematic, like, eschatological and like, which means like end times and like I was like Book of Revelation, like kind of crazy stuff like that. So like, I wanted it to be kind of grandiose, and I wanted just like a cool, badass, like medieval painting kind of thing. And I feel like that's kind of what we got. I mean, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. So I was just like looking for inspiration and stuff like that. So that's That's Crusade. And
Sick.
it kind of fit, I feel like it fit the narrative and themes of the record pretty well, at least lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
For Cost of Living, we had gotten linked up with John Contino, who we were just kind of like, knew his name through Long Island hardcore, and then found out that he was like this giant, unbelievably talented graphic artist. Right. And so with John, we knew we wanted something like urban. We knew we wanted something like kind of grimy. We were looking at a lot of things like that, but not from the angle of like, we're agnostic front and tough guys from New York City, just more of like the current city conditions. And I mean, I was living in the city for, I lived there for 13 years. So like, okay. I knew I wanted something like that. But with John, because he's such a professional, we were like, here's some ideas, but like, please go nuts. And he killed it. So, I'm really proud of that and thankful for John for doing that work because, I think it really kind of became like somewhat iconic because of his talents. Yeah. And then for the last record, I knew specifically that I wanted a photograph. I did not want art. I did not want a painting or anything like that. And we had been talking to John D who runs Well-Fed Clothing, and he like shared us like he shared a few pictures that he had taken from like his portfolio, and I was looking through it and I was just like, that's the one. And I sent it to Brian and he was like, yep, this is it. And John was really cool and helpful with it. So I'm really happy with how that came out.
Oh shit. Okay. So just, started from that and then, it was like an automatic, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of one of those, like when So yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Okay. And now you guys have had the same Incendiary logo since like very first EP, correct? Like that's been the same strike through lettering?
The one that we used for the past, whatever, 8, 9, 10 years has been kind of consistent. There's another one more like block style. That was the original logo. They look similar, but we've had two. But the one that's on the last couple records is like kind of how it's been. I think it works.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, for sure. That's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of funny where sometimes something in the simplicity, it's not all crazy. There's not, a bunch of like pictures around it and shit. Like you just see that and you don't even have to read the whole thing and know that it's, there's Incendiary. Okay, they're on the show. Sick. It's kind of one of those nice things sometimes with the choice in visual aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of keeping it straightforward and, that's how it goes.
Yeah. All right. So as far as with a couple of, just taking a selfish moment here, I wanted to talk about two individual tracks, two of my favorites. And I just kind of wanted to ask a little behind the scenes, maybe some lyrical ideas, story behind it. And the first one here is off the old bad boy, 1,000 Mile Stare. Bam. I wanted to ask about Hanging from the Family Tree. First of all, what was the inspiration, the story behind the lyrics? Give us a little bit about that song.
Yeah, that song is about a lot of the songs that are a lot of the lyrics, I should say, for Incendiary are kind of sometimes written like from myself at myself. So like the audience is like me, basically, like kind of like not like a pep talk, but just like, I don't know, like kind of that's like the perspective in my head a lot of times. That song specifically is about trying to be a good person, basically, and trying to be trying to hold on to some of the things that I felt like I were taught by the people that are important to me in my life, and trying to balance between like doing the right thing and having like my head on straight in a world where it's really easy to not do the right thing and it's easy to be a bad person because it's just easier, and it's easy to be shitty, and it's easy to do dumb shit, and it's easy to make dumb decisions, and it's always easier to not do something, right? Like so it's really about like making sure like when I'm saying like holding on to all my values, like thinking about where I came from and where I grew up, and really trying to focus on like being the best person that I could be in a time in the world, in a climate where it's easy to kind of be just like miserable and standoffish. It's really hard to be a good person, I think. And it takes work, and it takes patience, and it takes tolerance, and I'm not always the most patient person. So it's really just like wrestling that like in my head, best as I can explain it.
Fuck. I mean, that's an awesome explanation there. That's it, you know, and certainly, you know, one of my favorite tracks on the album, and so that was kind of, you know, my first inspiration, aside from wanting to hear the story behind. But I'm like, fuck, this track in particular, you know, has always been one of my favorites. So, you know, aside from being, you know, friends and cool with Nate, you know, tell us about our feature and, you know, and him coming about on the track.
Yeah, I knew I wanted a voice that was going to be a lot different than mine. That's the first and foremost thing. And I really like the idea of like, you know, I'm proud of the friend group that we have, and the music that we've done together, and the shows that we've done together, and sort of the, you know, the vibe that we try to cultivate with our friends. And so I liked like the connection between like us doing a split with Zababa and, you know, like having them be on Closed Casket and putting out stuff on Closed Casket, and I knowing this release was going to come out on Closed Casket. So like I liked the idea of just kind of like keeping it keeping it in the family, so to speak. And I was really thankful for Nate to do it. So yeah, maybe that's actually part of it. And I didn't even think of it until right now, but like the word family, but like, you know, Zababa are really good friends of ours, and Nate has helped the band out personally a lot. And so I just thought it made a lot of sense, and I was happy that it came out and got done.
Sick. That rules. I love that. Now, the second track that I wanted to ask about was on you guys' split with Suburban Scum there. And I wanted to ask about the track Victory in Defeat. You know, tell us about where you were in life, you know, writing those lyrics. And a lot of it, you know, it feels really personal. And I just kind of wanted to hear, without getting too personal, you know, I'm not trying to dig into all your shit.
No, for sure.
You know,
yeah.
As far as your direction with it.
Yeah, I really don't have, I mean, the most I ever had in terms of like more personal lyrics was on the last record. But that was, you know, one of my first forays into more personal things. And I think that was just kind of like, you know, a song written out of kind of like frustration, and kind of coming to terms with maybe like more of a tougher point in my life where I felt like I didn't really know where I was going. Sometimes I think there's like comfort in kind of feeling frustrated and like feeling hopeless, you know, like, and so I think that just kind of came out on that track, which, you know, it's a little bit of like a negative tone, but I think a lot of the lyrics like that, and I think for other people in this music and just lyrics in general, like it's kind of like your own way of like your self-therapy, right? So like it's almost like if I can like get the bad vibes out, so to speak, like I want to just get it out on paper, because it's almost cathartic to just like put those things out there rather than like internalize it. So it's kind of like a good experience on that, right? You like expel the fucking negativity and get it out on paper so that it doesn't have to like stay inside you.
Yeah, wow. I mean, yeah, that rules, you know, and that's the thing too, you know, with just like with a track like that, some of the lyrics that are in that too, you know, it's absolutely like, you know, kind of feels like there's a little bit of just like a pummeling, you know, and like just a anger that comes through. But, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, kind of hearing the story behind, and I love you, you know, you taking, you know, the opportunity to be able to explain some of that shit, because I'm sure people hearing that will think that's sick as well. So
no problem.
Myself.
Right on. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like I said, it's cheap therapy, right? It's good, and it's cathartic to write sometimes when you feel like you can put some words on paper and make yourself feel a little better, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. Shit, that's
right on.
You know, I mean, you have drummers that always seem like they're the chillest ones just because, you know, they're beating on shit all the time, so they don't have much energy to go out of it. But then, you know, maybe that's some of the, you know, that's some of the approach too with vocalists, as far as like, hey man, I get to let some of this anger out every night, so I'm feeling a little bit, laid back.
100%. Like that's a huge aspect of it. Yeah, it's a huge aspect of it.
So, you know, when the band's writing, you know, a set list maybe for a future show, and just hypothetically, if you could include one song from each full length that you guys have never played live, what 3 tracks would you have in this set list?
Oh God, dude. I don't even know the names of half of our songs because I like, we have like fake names for them and stuff. For sure, I can tell you, I have a great answer like that I always think of, which is, well, let me back up. It is interesting because like when you're writing stuff and you're writing songs, like you don't know what songs are going to resonate live. Like you just have no idea. And so one of the coolest parts about putting out like a new record, let's say, is like you put it out there and you're just like, you put it out, you know, into the world, and you're like, all right, let's see how this is going to go. You don't know the feedback. You have no idea what songs are going to resonate with people. You're going to have no idea what songs are going to not do that well live, right? Like, and if I had to bet on certain songs, I would have been really wrong, like in our career. Like if I was like, this song is like whatever, and like it wound up being one of our biggest songs, like there's a lot of that. So for me, I would say the last song, Poison, on our most recent LP, 1,000 Miles Stare, for me. So we've never played that live. That song means a lot to me, and I was very, very happy with how the lyrics came out, and like extremely proud of that song. So maybe it would do well live. We've never played it. You know, the last track of an album can be really difficult because obviously like some people don't make it there, right? Because it's the last song. So yeah, that song hands down, I think is, you know, means the most to me lyrically. And maybe we'll give it a shot one day because we've never played it live.
Dude, when I interviewed Danny, he said the same thing. You guys have to make that shit happen.
Did he really?
That'd be sick. Yeah.
Did he really say?
Yeah,
no shit.
He
I didn't know
Poison.
that.
Yeah.
No kidding. Oh,
and,
wow.
You know, if I can mention, you know, not just because you're in the band or anything, but saying Silence is a Sentence, that might be one of your guys' top 3 tracks ever. And it's the last song on Cost of Living. And that song hits every time. I mean, still to this day, I've listened to that album way too much. But that
awesome.
song,
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, the last song can be tough. The last song can be really tough. A lot of bands, like, you know, in some ways you want like an epic closer, and in some ways you don't. I think some bands try to like maybe put the song that they feel least strong about at the end. The track listing's really tricky. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of like think that to death, honestly, dude, like where things should go strategically, but that's kind of where it sat. I'm happy that it's the last song. I don't really like care how it does live. I just personally like it a lot. So yeah, I had no idea Dan thought that. I'm glad you told me. Maybe we'll bust it out one day.
That'd be so sick. I know, because he mentioned that, and I'm like, holy fuck, I was not expecting that whatsoever. But such a sick, you know. So, and I mean, I guess bringing it back, you know, as far as like my interest with like one of my favorite bands ever is Weezer, and Only in Dreams on the Blue album. You know, that's like one of my favorite songs of all time, and is the last track on the album. You know, it's kind of, it is. I think it's one of those fun surprises where, you know, you get to the end and you're like, it's either going to be huge or, you know, maybe it'll just be kind of one of those ones just closing everything up. But yeah, that's a good topic. I like
bass lick right there too.
Boom, there it is, man. Yeah. All right, as far as your pre-show ritual, you know, let's talk that. You know, you guys are getting ready to play a set. You know, where are you, you know, putting yourself mentally? Do you do some exercises vocally, anything like that before you go out?
Yeah, well, nowadays I have to stretch because we're all old men. So I do stretch quite a bit. And I'm trying to think if I have any like rituals. Sometimes I'll put on a new shirt, which is weird because like I should just leave it on because I've already been like sweaty. But sometimes I feel like it wakes me up and it's like, you know, like just like fresh. I definitely stretch. I'll do push-ups sometimes. We have a few funny things that we'll do. I do try to warm up my voice. And I try to, the past 3 years, I've tried to get more serious about that to varying degrees of success because I still, you know, will lose my voice all the time. So I do try that. And then one ritual that we kind of have is our bass player, Matt, will attempt a one-handed push-up, which he can't do, and none of us can. But he'll like take it really seriously. So before he'll go on, he'll get like down and we'll all crowd around him and he'll have his hand and he looks like he's about to bang out like a set of like 10 one-handed push-ups and he just collapses. And that's kind of became one of like a funny like thing that we usually do before a set. And you know, yeah, that's about it.
I mean, that relieves, some of the tension, even though, I mean, it's like even the baddest bands, it's like you're not necessarily tense or you're not, nerves with playing, shows over the years, but it's one of those things where you're about to get on and, that kind of helps, get into that mentality of, not overthinking shit and just, kind of being in the zone. So
100%. That's good. We really are, we keep it pretty light before the show. I think on purpose, and I'm just really focused. I don't normally get nervous, really. I don't really get too nervous. I kind of just like to stay loose and just go out there. I feel very confident in our band, so it's just more about like enjoying it and being present and just kind of like being aware. So I'll often kind of just like, look at the crowd and just be in the moment as much as I can.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah, good answer. I like that. As far as the last couple of years, you've supplied some vocals, some guest vocals, if you will, for a band called World Demise and for a track called World Demise by the Acacia Strain. Tell us about, each of these opportunities and maybe how they came up in the process working on them.
Yeah. The Acacia Strain one was interesting for a couple reasons. Vince had asked me to do that, and we became kind of buds with the Acacia Strain. We played a couple shows with them, and Vincent asked me to do it. I was like super flattered. And it was interesting, obviously, because you could not find two people who sound differently, which I think is interesting. And the cool thing about that was that it was the first time I worked with Will and the first time I met Will.
Okay.
So
nice.
Yeah, so that was like kind of nice. So the Will Putney recorded that record, and it was a cool experience. It was also like obviously like the heaviest song I've ever been on because the Acacia Strain is the Acacia Strain. So that was fun. World Demise, the band was my bud Greg Mongoloids and Paul from Suburban Scum. So Greg has been a great friend, a great advocate to Incendiary for years. And Paul is literally, using the word correctly, the nicest person you will ever meet in your entire life. And we love Paul like a fucking brother. He is the best human being. And so when the two of those guys asked me to do that, I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to do it. So that was fun too. We recorded that in the hood somewhere, like in, I want to say it was in Bed-Stuy somewhere that we put the vocals, Bed-Stuy or Bushwick, I think. But yeah, so that's like a new band that they had going on, and I think they're still doing it. So shout outs to World Demise.
Yeah, I was going to ask if they're still doing stuff or not. I mean, I saw that they put out, maybe it was that initial EP or whatever, but I hadn't heard a whole lot after that, and the shit slaps. So
yeah, they did a bunch of shows when they first put it out, and then I think things slowed down a little bit, but I think they're still the thing for sure.
Okay. All right. If you could, just off the top of your head, it's not to favor anybody, but, you guys are putting out, your next record, and you could have two guest vocalists, anybody that you wanted. Who would you throw on this bad boy? Who comes to mind?
Oh, man.
And if you want to pass it, that's cool. Because some people,
no.
I'm not a favoritism.
No.
All right.
No. I mean, for Long Island purposes, like I would love to have Daryl from Glassjaw. I think that would be kind of cool.
Oh,
obviously
shit.
He's incredibly talented. I think it would be sick and not funny, but just like badass if Corpse Grinder sang, which we like kind of thought about once.
Oh man,
because he's just a freak. I think that would be crazy. I let me tell you like kind of like my philosophy with that. Like I like don't sound hard, and I always like there are parts in our songs where I'm like, I wish we could get someone to do this part justice. So like I always think of someone like with like a really just like more of like a brutal voice. So that's why like I thought of him or something like that. So I like that juxtaposition with the sounds of the voices.
Oh man, that would be so sad. I mean,
yeah. It'd be pretty ridiculous, but that'd be yeah. Why not, right? Fuck it.
It's a feature, and I mean that's kind of one of the things with like Jabalba. When I first heard that track, I was like, oh fuck. I mean, this is like a completely juxtaposition dynamic.
Yeah.
So I mean that's the cool thing about features for sure.
Yeah, I've always liked that. So yeah, that's just off the top of my head.
I love it. That's awesome. Now, 2018, let's talk about Barrier Brewing Company released an incendiary beer. All right. Front Toward Pilsner, correct? That was what it was called?
Yes, sir.
I mean, was there just a ton of that in your fridge that you were slamming? Was that
sure
what was happening for the time?
That's exactly what happened. Yeah. Wish I had something better to say about that, but that's exactly what happened.
Nice. What role did the band play in the process of that coming about? Sorry to cut you off.
Barrier was so cool to work with. They were amazing. They approached us with the idea. They did a beer for Every Time I Die that did really well. Barriers from Long Island. And they approached us about the idea, and I am not like a big, triple IPA kind of guy. Like that's not really what I'm into. So I really like German, Czech, Pilsner style beers. That's what I like. So I was like, do you think you guys could do like a Pilsner? I know you normally, craft beers are normally IPAs or whatever. He's like, yeah, totally. So they took a stab at it, and I was like, we should call it Front Toward Pilsner. It's a funny name. I don't know. He was like, sounds great. And so they brewed it. I loved it. We did a couple of releases. We did one at our friend's restaurant, Vauxhall in Huntington. Shout out Vauxhall. We had them at a couple of our local shows. Drank a lot of Incendiary beer, the five of us. And that was, I couldn't be happier with it. They had like a giant stack of them at the Whole Foods in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, which my friend sent me a picture of. I was like, oh shit. So it was super cool. We got to go to the brewery too. It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. I wish I didn't drink it all because I have no more left.
Nice. I love that. That's sick. Just seeing that was one of those things where like, man, that's a fucking hard move right there. Coming out with your own beer. Like that's sick.
Yeah. It's a little like we were a little like not sure at first because it's kind of like tour guy metal band thing, you know what I mean? And I'm like, like I feel like this is more for like municipal waste or something, but like but it wound up being really fun. And like Barrier was so cool about it, so it was dope.
I feel like the metal angle would have been like a whiskey or like,
that's true.
Shit like
that's
that,
a good
like
point.
in a glass bottle. So that's a good look.
Whiskey is more, you're right. It'd be more of like your own whiskey. Yeah, that'd be badass.
Now, as far as, like just from, you being in New York or even on Long Island, tell us about the Perfect Pint, to you, where is a spot maybe off the beaten path that's a favorite that comes to mind? May it be a winery or, a brew house.
Yeah. So, when I think of a Perfect Pint, I think of Guinness, like who gives a shit how you pour like a Heineken or whatever. So a Perfect Pint to me, there's a few places in the city, Long Island, but in the city, I'll throw out Molly's Pub on 3rd Avenue, 3rd, and I think it's like 22nd. It's a great Irish pub. It's been there for years. Unbelievable Guinness. And then I'll shout out Rory Dolan's in the Bronx. It's like in Yonkers, technically, on McLean Avenue, which is a great Irish pub, pours an amazing pint of Guinness, and it's a fun time up there in the Bronx. So those two, if I could have one now, I would probably get a pint from either of those places for sure.
Sick. Yeah. Hell yeah. Is that the process where you go and you're waiting, 10 minutes for them to get everything to settle and all that?
You got it, my friend. You got it. Yeah. Just poured properly. The secret to there's a lot of secrets, I think, to a good Guinness, but one of the biggest ones is how much they go through. And a lot of people, some people don't drink Guinness. And so like, if you're going to go to like a regular bar and order a Guinness, sometimes you got to be careful because like a lot of people don't do that. But if you go to a proper Irish pub, people will be drinking it like it's going out of style. And so the fresher it is and the fresher they place the kegs, usually the Guinness is better. And those guys usually know how to pour it. So you got to go to a real ass place.
Nice. Okay. All right. That sounds. Now let me ask you something. This is going to be a little goofy and offbeat here, but have you ever heard of a snake bite?
Yeah, of course.
And this is just
when I lived in London, that's all any of my friends drank. Like going out of style. That's all they drank.
With your familiarity, is it a Guinness and a hard cider?
No, isn't it a hard cider with grenadine? Isn't that what it is? Isn't it their red shit in it? Isn't that a snake bite?
Not the one that I had. When I was in Kentucky at the time, and we went to some small, Irish pub of some sort. I can't remember the name of it, but they had a drink where I'd never had or it was called the snake bite on the menu, I should say. but it had
I
Guinness
think a snake
and then
bite.
hard cider.
I wonder if anyone from the UK is in the comments. I think it's at least over there. I thought a snake bite was cider and like grenadine or whatever. Someone's saying a black and tan. That's not a black and tan is Guinness and like Harp or Guinness or whatever. Oh, here's May. May, what's a snake bite? Isn't it cider and I thought it was cider and grenadine because there's something red in it. Oh fuck. You stumped me, man. I don't remember. That was 16 years ago, so I don't remember. Oh, here we go. She got it. It's hard cider and black currant. Hell yes.
Black currant. Okay.
I knew it was red. See, but I'm not. Maybe it was different where you went, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but that was my introduction to Guinness. Was actually this drink, and I was like, oh shit, this is actually good. And then it just eventually, like, you know, I went away with the cider because I'm like, this beer is fucking amazing. Like that's the way.
On. Yeah.
If you ever get a chance, try it out though, because it's not that bad. It sounds a little gross at first, but fuck, I would slam those things. Maybe a little headache the day after.
That sounds like the Americanized version, but I'll be down to try it.
yeah, for sure. All right, man. Look, this is wrapping up our time. This has been absolutely amazing. Really cool talk. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, first and foremost, man. This has been so sick.
I appreciate the thoughtful questions. It was a pleasure talking to you, man.
Absolutely. All right. So first, you know, if you want to shout out some things, if you want to let everybody know, you know, what maybe you guys have, you know, some plans or something. I do have one finale, but this is your opportunity to just, you know, have the floor for a minute.
Yeah. I hope everyone is safe and healthy and is trying to be with their family and take a pause and be thankful for what they have and take care of each other, because there's a lot of negativity in the world right now. And I'm not trying to be like Kumbaya, but 400,000 people are not here on this planet, and it's sad. And so I hope everyone is safe and happy and staying busy and getting outside and being healthy and finding some hobbies and trying to get through a rough time, and be careful what they watch and be careful what they read. And yeah, you got to hang in there. It's been a weird time, right? Coming up on a year.
Absolutely.
Incendiary's last show was February 22nd, I think, of 2020. So it's coming up on a year for us of no shows. Man. So pretty crazy. Yeah.
Man, you know, and that's one thing too, you know, where it's so nice seeing, you know, some of these cats that are doing the things for like the touring, you know, the hands that come along, and, you know, different cats that are touring along with people, you know, doing different like, foundations and volunteering and different things. 'Cause that shit you don't think of. And, you know, maybe some people are like, I mean, they can find their own name. Well, I mean, when you depend on that and you have your livelihood based off of that, you know, this has been pretty fucking tough, and, you know, put a lot of people in hard spots. So I'm glad that you touched on
well
that.
Said.
You know, that's great.
Well said. Yeah. We've done a few different, we've been involved, thankfully, in a few different fundraisers over time, and specifically for folks in the touring industry and, you know, all of that and you know, merch, touring, stage management. It's a lot of people out of work. So, yeah, and we're still rocking. Incendiary will never die. So you'll be hearing more from us soon. We have an exciting announcement that should be coming in a couple days.
Oh my God! All right,
teaser.
Well, yeah, damn, sick. I'm not going to push too much into that, but that's awesome. I can't wait to see what's coming up. That's very, very cool news. I love it.
It's not that exciting, but it's something cool.
You know what? Fuck it, man. I mean, it's still cool no matter what. You know, new things coming out. One thing that I can say about 2020 is that, you know, it's been so shitty in so many ways, but music and film wise, there's been some great stuff that's come out over the year that, you know, has really, I think, helped with the spirits, and some new aggressive music coming out. You know, the more the better.
Yeah, it's been great to meet up with the guys and work on stuff, and it's been fun. So kind of keeps us the creative juices flowing. So for sure, man, feels good.
Oh fuck, awesome. All right, sick. All right, so here's the last finale. I was trying to think of a couple little things, you know, toss some ideas here and just come up with a fun, you know, hypothetical question here for you. So yep. I came up with a finale called Products of New York. This is based off of your guys' iconic logo, the Product of New York, the bad fucking casket that you guys have all over everything. Love it. So after, you know, all of this list, let's just say that, you know, you put together a festival, you know, to benefit maybe some sort of foundation or fundraiser or something like that. This fest is going to feature some local food, some drinks, and some bands that are local to New York and Long Island. So Incendiary is going to be on this festival. with one other hardcore band of your choosing and one band outside of hardcore. First of all, what bands are going to be in this fest? You're choosing.
All right. It could be any New York band.
Yep.
Let's play with our buddies in King 9. That'd be nice. I love King 9. So we'll say them. Non-hardcore band. Let's do Somerset Thrower, who just released an incredible new LP. Our boys from Long Island. So that'd be a nice little 3-band gig. So we'll say them. And then what was the other question? What food?
What local, like maybe even restaurant, food truck, what would you have cater this bad boy?
Okay, let's go, let me think here. Let's go pizza, not from Little Vincent's, which is the most overrated pizza in the world. So we'll go with pizza from really any shithole pizza place on Long Island. Usually has like the best pizza you've ever had. So we'll go just pizza from Long Island. We'll keep it simple, and maybe we'll do some local beers from Barrier. So we'll give them a plug.
Okay, shit. Okay, I love that. And then throwing up old Barrier. Yeah, maybe they can get some Incendiary beer back on that bitch. Sick. Let me ask really quick. What's your attack on pizza? Everybody's got their approach. I lose you?
No, I'm back, man.
Okay.
Get a slice, fold it down the middle.
See, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Yeah. You gotta fold it up and slap it on in, huh?
Yeah, I'm a plain guy. People call it cheese from New York. I just call it regular right. I don't like toppings. I mean, I don't not like them, but like don't need them. If you have good pizza, toppings are for bad pizza. So I get just a regular, straight up, a little bit well done pie. Good to go.
Damn. All right, man. Look, that is absolutely amazing and a perfect moment to cut this right now. Nothing more needs to be said. Love it. All right, man. Once again, thank you so much for your time. This has been huge. I really, really appreciate it. This will be edited and on YouTube this Friday. So if anybody, caught some of it or is trying to watch, the whole thing, it'll be on my YouTube channel and I'll put up a link and, tag you on that and everything. So
please do. Thank you. And thanks for everyone who tuned in live. That's cool. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You as well. Yep.
Cool,
so
man.
Now, everybody, you guys take care. Be safe. Lo-Fi Horror Guy, my dude, Brendan Garrone of Incendiary.
Peace
Take
out.
care. Have a good day.
Be well. Later, brother.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi, a horror guy. Yeah, baby.